This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
There's a certain kind of silence that takes over a small town when the person everyone trusted suddenly becomes the person everyone is warned about. It's a silence that doesn't feel peaceful or reflective. It feels stunned. It feels like someone cut the power to the whole emotional grid at once. And right now, that's the silence wrapped around Big Stone Gap, Virginia, where a high school football coach didn't just fall from grace. He detonated every illusion people thought they had about who he was and what he represented. This is the story of Travis Turner, a man who used to be a local legend, a man who coached Union High School's football team into an undefeated season, a man who celebrated with players on Friday nights and posed for photos with families who believed he was helping build the next generation of leaders. A man who had been part of this community for decades, first as a player, then as a coach, then as a figurehead of everything this town loves about football and identity and tradition. And then, in the span of a few hours, poof, he became a ghost. Turner, who's 46, lived exactly the kind of life you'd expect to see in a community where high school football stands shoulder to shoulder with religion. He grew up in Appalachia, back when Appalachia High School still existed, before the merger that created Union. He was a quarterback there, a standout, someone who embodied the blue-collar toughness the region takes pride in. He moved on to play at the University of Virginia's College at Wise, stayed connected to the area, and eventually stepped into coaching. First as an assistant, then later taking the helm at Union High. He wasn't some outsider who dropped in. He was one of them, a hometown guy, built from the same dirt and expectations and shared stories as the people who cheered him on. And for years, he built a reputation as a hard-driving, deeply committed coach. Parents trusted him, students admired him, administrators put their confidence in him. In communities like this, coaches aren't just coaches, they are leaders, father figures, influencers, sometimes even protectors of kids who don't have many. And in 2025, Turner delivered one of the best seasons the town had ever seen. 12 wins, 0 losses, a push deep into the playoffs. The Bears looked unstoppable. Turner was celebrated, respected, and seen as a living piece of the town's identity, which is why what happened next hits like an earthquake. On November 20th, state police special agents from the Bureau of Criminal Investigation headed to Turner's home. They weren't there to arrest him, not yet. At that moment, no warrants had been issued. Police weren't announcing a search. They weren't publicizing what the investigation was about. They weren't revealing who or what triggered the entire thing. All they said much later is that they were looking to speak with him. And by the time they arrived, Turner was gone. That very morning, according to his family's attorney, Turner walked out of his house and into a heavily wooded area, mountainous, near his property. He didn't just walk out. He took a rifle with him. No car keys, no phone, no backpack loaded with supplies, just a gun and a direction. His family noticed immediately. They tried to file a missing persons report, but were told they'd need to wait 24 hours. The next day they filed it, but by then something else had happened, something that transformed the situation from a private disappearance into a full-blown criminal case. Police obtained 10 felony warrants for Travis Turner, 5 counts of possessing child CSAM material, and 5 counts of using a communications device to solicit a minor. In other words, some pretty bad stuff. Serious charges, heavy charges, charges that do not get filed unless investigators believe they have the evidence, compelling evidence in hand. Evidence that usually comes from digital forensics, things you can't argue away and say, I don't know how that got here. Police did not say whether they had already seized the devices. They did not say whether they had searched his home. They did not reveal who the alleged victim or victims are. They did not clarify whether the alleged material involved minors from the area, online interactions, or something entirely different. But the charges were approved, the warrants were signed, and the moment they were, everything changed. Turner was no longer simply missing. He became a fugitive. The man who had just coached a 12-0 team into the playoffs was suddenly wanted by the state of Virginia on these child exploitation charges, and he was nowhere to be found. Now, here's where things get even more complicated, because when someone walks into the woods with a weapon, the human mind goes straight for the darkest conclusion. Was he going to unalive himself? The possibility seems obvious, maybe even likely. People accused of these sort of crimes sometimes choose that final, irrevocable exit rather than face arrest, humiliation, or trial. And considering Turner vanished mere hours before the warrants landed, the timing doesn't feel accidental. But that's what happened. No body has been found as of this recording. Search teams, drones, canine units, rescue crews have scoured the area. It's rugged terrain, thick woods, steep slopes. It's a kind of environment where a person could disappear without a trace, especially if they didn't want to be found. U.S. Marshals are also searching now, but searchers haven't turned up clothing, food, a weapon, a note, anything, nothing that confirms someone trying to unalive themselves, nothing that even confirms he stayed in those woods for more than a few minutes, which leads to another possibility. Turner's alive and hiding. People familiar with the land know how unforgiving it can be, but they also know that someone who grew up here can navigate it better than most. Is it possible he's still out there living off-grid, avoiding capture? Yeah. Is it likely long-term? Well, that's much harder to say, especially in winter. Survival without supplies is a narrow window at best. There's also a third possibility, one investigators have not confirmed, but that always lingers in the background of cases like this. Someone could have met him deeper in the woods and helped him leave. We don't know that. There's no evidence of that, but this is a man with decades of relationships, former players, friends, community ties, people who might help him escape, not understanding the seriousness of the allegations, or maybe involved with the same sort of material or allegations themselves. But again, no evidence, just unanswered questions. What we know is this: no one has seen him since he walked into those trees. No confirmed sightings, no electronic activity, no physical discoveries, no communication with friends or family. He vanished. While all of this was unfolding, the community was thrown into chaos. Imagine being a teenager on that undefeated Union Bears team, already in the emotional furnace of playoff pressure, only to have your head coach abruptly disappear under the darkest possible cloud. You're told he's missing. You're told police are looking for him. Then you hear there's 10 felony charges. And somehow you still have to go out there and play football. And unbelievably, the team kept winning. They won their regional championship 21-14. They advanced deeper into the postseason. The community rallied around them, not in denial of the allegations, but in support of the kids, thrust into an adult nightmare they didn't ask for and don't deserve. Meanwhile, the school district moved quickly. Turner was placed on administrative leave. His profile was removed from the school website. He was banned from campus and prohibited from contacting students. There was no hesitation, no wavering. Allegations like these don't come with benefit of the doubt optics. You protect the kids first. Everything else follows later. And it looks like they did. But even with all of that, emotional fallout is unavoidable. Parents are questioning everything. How much access he had, whether there were warning signs, whether the school missed something, or whether this is a case of private behavior entirely disconnected from his role as a coach. In the absence of information, people search their memories. They try to connect dots that may not even exist. They try to understand how a man who seemed like a pillar of the community could end up at the center of something like this. Because right now, so much of this case lives inside a vacuum of unanswered questions. We don't know what triggered the investigation. Was it a tip? A report from a parent? A flagged file upload, a separate investigation that led to Turner's devices? Authorities haven't said. We don't know how long police have been looking into him before November 20th. They won't say. We don't know whether the alleged child CSAM material involved minors from the area or was entirely online. They don't have that to reveal yet. We don't know whether additional charges are coming, though police have hinted that more could be filed. We don't know whether he's alive or dead, whether he's hiding or gone, whether the evidence is sprawling or limited, whether the alleged crimes were isolated or part of a larger pattern, whether this is the tip of an iceberg or the entire story. This is one of those situations where the silence from investigators, while completely appropriate for protecting minors and preserving the integrity of a digital forensic investigation, leaves the community in a state of emotional freefall. People need answers, not speculation, but right now answers aren't available. Not yet. And that brings us to the deeper theme running beneath this entire case. The thing that makes it resonate far beyond Wise County, Virginia. When someone like Turner falls, it shakes people in very specific ways, because coaches aren't just employees. They aren't just people who teach plays and run drills. They're authority figures. They're trusted with kids. They're placed in positions where parental instincts are lowered, where vulnerability is assumed safe, where the power dynamic is enormous. So when one of those figures is accused of crimes involving kids, it collapses the emotional architecture of an entire community. And when that same figure vanishes walking into the woods with a rifle, it freezes people in place, not just because they're horrified by the charges, but because they're forced to confront their own optimism, their own trust, and their own blind spots. How well do we really know the people we hand our kids to? How much of someone's private life can remain invisible, even in a small town? How many people saw something that didn't register as a warning sign until it was too late? How often do communities elevate leaders without realizing the pedestal itself creates a shield? These are uncomfortable questions. They cut deep, and they're the kind of questions that linger long after the headlines fade, because communities don't forget this kind of rupture. They absorb it. Now here we are. A beloved coach missing, a town in shock, a football team trying to carry on with their season under the darkest cloud imaginable, and an investigation that's only just begun. We don't know if investigators have more evidence coming. We don't know if Turner will be found alive or dead, and we don't know if he's hiding in those woods or halfway across the country. We don't know when or if this will be resolved. But we do know this. Travis Turner is gone. He walked into the woods armed just hours before felony warrants were issued for him, and he never walked back out. And the silence left in his absence, that stunned, heavy, disorienting silence, is now sitting on the shoulders of an entire community, trying to make sense of a story that shattered overnight. There will be more developments. There will be more information. There will be answers eventually. But right now, we're living in the part of the story where the questions are louder than the facts, where the mystery is bigger than the resolution, and where the truth is still hiding in the shadows of those mountains. And until those answers come, until someone finds him, until the story takes its next turn, one haunting question hangs over everything. Where is Coach Travis Turner? Give me your thoughts in the comments section on our YouTube channel. If you're not already there, search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. That is where you will find us. I'd love to get your thoughts. And while you're there, please press subscribe. We're trying to get up to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year. We're about 15,000 away. We're right at, maybe we'll make it. I don't know, only with your help. So please do hit subscribe And you'll get up-to-the-minute coverage on this case as we continue to follow it for you. And many others as well. Until next time, I'm Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.